We are the Borg. We have analyzed your story and found that it has holes in it. Alright, so this video is going to be much quicker than the last one, because it's actually part 2. And it's mostly dealing with what the anti-truckers said was the problem with Q-Who. Specifically, whatever happened to Guinan and Q.
And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. I'm Rob the host, and this is another look deep into what makes a story, a theory on storytelling by a storyteller who believes that every story has merit. And tonight's episode is...
So I did a video last week fixing up the Borg, and talking about how just in theory you could make it work if you have a writer that's willing to put a little bit of effort in. And next week I'm going to be going into my own idea about what I would do with Trek going forward, which will loosely involve the Borg. But putting a patch over things only works so long. Last week I asked you guys, and since I'm recording this before it actually goes live, I don't know if you actually responded, is there a way to patch the Hansen part? I don't know if there is. But alright. So back in Q-Who, when we first see the Borg for the first time, we have this scene where these two are standing off, and it looks like Elorians, or at least specifically Guinan, is capable of something with Q, some form of threatening him. But then we also get, later, in a Voyager episode, Q's son. And he's a chip right off the old block. He's annoying, he causes trouble, he seems to be very impish. In general, he's a troublemaker. But here's the important part. One of the things he does messes with the Borg, to which we get this scene. What's the one rule about the Q? We don't antagonize the Borg. But why? Now, some people have put out this whole theory that the Q are afraid of the Borg, and actually there's this whole Cold War, and they're using the Federation as a stand-in, as a shadow war. And I can't say that I 100% say it's impossible. But even before that, there's a step that goes a little earlier. Remember, Guinan, the person who can threaten Q, is of a race that's already been assimilated. But before we go too much into unpacking that, I do want to just say, for those of you that don't know, where this is a new series, this is like, I don't know, 150 weeks of me doing videos. I take apart stories, put them back together. So if you're interested in helping out the channel, there's lots of ways you can do that. The biggest, of course, being click that subscribe button. And this whole thing started because the Anti-Trucker and Lore Reloaded both did whole big Borg things, and so I talked about the Borg last week. But this week I specifically want to touch on one of the first things that Lore Reloaded and Anti-Trucker both said, and that is that this storyline went nowhere. Well, I disagree. I think that it kind of flows in the background and could use some patching up. But yeah, I think Guinan does have some level of threat to the Q continuum. And I think because people like her have been assimilated, I believe that there is a certain level of threat the Borg pose to them. Now, very specifically, we know that Guinan's race is capable of being long-lived, they can sense changes in space-time, and that they are in some way, shape, or form a threat to Q. We also know that, in general, this race, or that there are races that are psychic, and that Q really is just an all-powerful psychic being. He is not really a god, per se. So if they have a psychic resistance, or if specifically she does, maybe because of something specifically that happened to her and happened to a bunch of other Elorians, where they both exist in the Nexus and out of the Nexus at the same time. Plus, she just has a strong willpower. Maybe that's enough to be able to at least be immune to some of Q. If Q can't blink you away, and I'd like to remind you of that too. At the end of Q-Who, he doesn't just go, poof, no more Borg cube. He sends the ship away from... can Q blink a cube out of existence? I don't know. Maybe if, like the Elorians, they're just a little bit immune, if they're just starting baby steps towards that godhood, that perfection of being able to be like Q, maybe they are. And now that then, of course, leads to maybe the Q really are afraid and there really is a shadow war going on. I don't know if there is or not, but it's a fun theory. And at the end of the day, all it really needs to be said is that Guinan is unique amongst her own race. Her race is powerful and already leading up to the level of Q. What do you think, though? Do you think this answers the question that they had? Whatever happened to that storyline? Do you think that this is in any way, shape, or form plausible? Or let me know down in the comments if there's something else you want me to patch, especially about Trek. For now, if you're interested in this theories, help me with a like and a share, and of course, if you haven't, click that subscribe button. And a big shout out thank you to my Patreons that help make these videos possible. For now, I hope that you have a good night, and thank you for walking with me through the heart of the Elorian Borg story. Thanks for watching.